Is it working?
Yeah.
Welcome to
The Casa Show.
And today's topic is about education. So San Juan asked on Facebook, who is responsible for creating and maintaining a great public school? And I think it has to do with the community and the people that are high in power. I think they have a big role because the community, they can motivate students, push them. What do you guys think?
I think the community really needs to value education. That will really help the students to be motivated to have a great school and the teachers be motivated to teach and do their jobs well. I think that, like you said, the community really helps.
I think that I agree with both of you, and I also agree that everyone is responsible for creating and maintaining a great public school. They really do make an impact on students.
I think it's really the superintendents and principals that really have an impact on the public schools because they're the ones that run it or whatever, so they should, if they run it right, then it should be a good school. Number 2, coming in from Bianca on Twitter, she asked, what is your role as a student? I believe that your role as a student is to understand how important education is and to figure out how to utilize all your resources to get the education that you deserve.
Yes, and then I also think that it's a student's job to go above and beyond. If they're struggling, they can go in the morning or go in after school, ask for questions. It's their job to get the help they need. They need to ask questions and do so.
Yeah, I think the students really just need to put an effort in. Sometimes they just view other things as more important than school, and then they're not getting any of their homework done. And if there has to be a two-way street. The teacher has to be able to teach, but the student has to also put some effort in that way.
Yeah, the student, I feel, needs to try as hard as they can to try to get a good education. Like, you can't just lay back and not want to learn, and then you're not doing your role as a student.
Yeah, definitely. For the third question, Anthony asked us a Twitter question. He said, what factors do you think should be taken into account when evaluating teacher performance and determining pay levels? Well, us here on the Casa, we watched a documentary called Waiting for Superman. And in that video, it talked about Michelle Reed, who was the superintendent for a time of the Washington, D.C. school district. And what she proposed, which I think most of us agree with, was that tenure would not be granted, really. So the teachers wouldn't have as much of a job stability, but they would get merit pay, so they could earn up to 2 times as much pay as they were currently earning if they performed well and their students performed well. So I agree with that.
I was very disappointed that didn't go through because I thought that would have really helped. And one thing that we found out was that kids with high-performing teachers learn 3 times more opposed to low-performing teachers. So that says something right there.
And another fact that we pulled out of the documentary was that bad teachers only cover 50% of the required curriculum for a year, whereas good teachers can cover 150, which is a lot.
And because teachers have tenure as we speak, 1 in every 2,500 teachers get fired compared to 1 in 57 doctors and 1 in 97 attorneys.
So, being what you said, Allie, I think that since a lot of teachers don't get fired, we should really crack down on that. So that should be a big factor.
So you think better evaluations, maybe?
Yes, way better evaluations.
Like the college evaluations where students send in evaluation on how they feel about their teacher and how much they learned and things like that need to be moved into high schools and not just colleges. I agree. Yeah.
We got an incoming question from Daisy. It says, what do you feel are the essential skills that a young person needs to prepare for a full and positive life after high school? I say discipline, like being able to do your homework and do it right and not just copying from people and stuff and learning what you taught. I think that is an essential skill to learn in life.
From DoSomething.org, I did a little research, and it says that only 1 in 4 high school students graduate college ready in the 4 core areas of English, reading, math, and science. And so I think if students learn those essential skills in those 4 core subjects, then they will be able to do more in other areas. Like if they're performing well in math, they might be good financially, things like that.
Well, doing research, I found that in the workplace, 85% of current jobs and 90% of new jobs require some or more college or post-secondary education. So I think one of the most important skills is that the students need to understand how important education is and how to be a citizen and help those students get into their colleges.
And I also think that they need to develop good study habits at a young age because that will carry on with them throughout college. And also if they listen to authority and learn how to handle authority, that'll carry on with them in college as well. And like Sarah said, basic financial skills.
And I agree with that about authority, because if they can listen and follow directions from a teacher, then they can do that from a boss. And that's one thing that a boss is really looking for.
I really think we should also focus on all of the jobs that are going to be available, because by 2020, there'll be 123 million jobs available, but only 15 million qualified workers. So I feel that we need to step up and try to fill those jobs as best we can.
Okay, so now we have a Instagram question from Taylor, and she asks, what are some of the barriers for ensuring that all children in our community receive a high-quality education and responsible?
And who is responsible for making
who's
that happen?
responsible for making that happen? So I think it's the unskilled teachers. We've all had that one teacher, a couple teachers that are not very good teachers, and the neighbors, like the neighborhood, if they're in a high poverty, then that can affect them in school as well. And if they're expected to perform poorly, then they're going to perform poorly. So they need to have high expectations, just like other schools do. What do you think, Allie?
I really think it's teachers and students who don't know the importance of education, and the principals and superintendents and school board members who think they know what's best for the students, but sometimes they don't always know, and maybe are just there for political reasons.
I think one of the barriers for ensuring high-quality education for all children is just the mindset that kids in poverty-stricken areas can't learn, because as we saw in the movie Waiting for Superman, as they put charter schools in those areas, those kids can learn just as well as everyone else, but that mindset is something that holds us all back, I think.
Cynthia, I kind of agree with what you said. They need to go in with high expectations, because if they go in low expectations, then their skills will be down here that they don't even know. And having them high really does help for them learning a high quality education.
And a new question coming in from Jeffrey on Instagram. What did you learn from watching the film that you did not know before? I learned a little bit more about how difficult some students have it, and a little bit more why education is failing. And a new fact that I did not know, which was really surprising, is since 1975, math and reading scores have not improved. And that tenures for teachers are granted only after 2 years, which is very appalling.
Yeah, I learned a lot from this film as well, Allie. One thing I learned was about charter schools and how successful they can be, especially in these areas with very underperforming schools. I learned that there is a huge demand for these charter schools. Now, not everyone is successful, but they are producing results.
I learned in the Waiting for Superman video or documentary that it costs more to pay for a prisoner than it does for college. So I think that education should be maybe a little cheaper for students, as it does cost more for a prisoner that isn't really beneficial for them.
So I learned that many families want a good education for their children, and that I always thought that neighborhoods that were high in poverty, they didn't get a good education, but now because of these charter schools, that's beginning to change, and that's really amazing. And I also learned that, can make a big impact in a school, whether that's a superintendent or a principal or a teacher. They can impact a child's life dramatically.
I think we all learned a lot. Well, that wraps up this episode of
The Casa Show.
We'll see you next time, where we will be talking about community.